Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I have started a personal DSA challenge where I am solving 5 problems per pattern, covering 180 problems in total. I'll be posting one video per day explaining my thought process from brute force to optimized approach. If you're new here, you can check out the previous videos to follow along. In today's problem, we'll be working on range sum query immutable. So this problem is very common interview question to test whether you understand prefix sums. So we will first look at the brute force approach, understand why it is slow, and then we will move to the optimized prefix sum solution. So the problem states that we are given an integer array nums and we need to answer multiple queries of the form sum range. We need to return the sum of elements from index left to right. Left and right are inclusive. So the idea for brute force approach would be, for every query, we will loop from left to right and we would calculate the sum. Every time the sum range is called, we need to recalculate the sum. This solution works, but it is very slow if there are multiple queries. So let's code it up first in the brute force approach. So let's initialize an array nums and let's assign it in the constructor, and let's take a variable sum as 0 initially, and we will loop from left to right. So I starts from left, I is less than or equals to right, because right is also inclusive, I plus plus, and let's calculate sum, which is nothing but sum plus equals to nums of I. Like we are summing each variable, each element in every iteration, and at the end we would return sum. Let's run the code. It is accepted. So here the time taken per query would be O of n, because for each query it would be running from left till the right, and the space would be O of 1 because we did not use any extra space. So this solution is not good when we have multiple queries. So for that we need to think of an optimized approach where we can use prefix sum. By pre-computing the sums, we can answer every query in O of 1 time. So let's create a prefix sum. So let's take a new array. Here in the global variable, let's take a new array and let's call it prefix. Now let's initialize this prefix inside the constructor to the length of the given input array. Now for the prefix array, before building the prefix array, the initial element at index 0 would be equal to the initial element in the input array. So prefix of 0 would be equals to nums of 0. Now we need to calculate the prefix for all other indexes. Now that we have already calculated for prefix of 0, the loop starts from I equals to 1 and it loops till the end of the array, and the formula for prefix sum is prefix of I is equals to prefix of I minus 1 previous element plus the current element in the input array nums of I. So this is the formula for the prefix sum, and now we would be calculating the sum range. Sum range in case if left is 0. In case if left is 0, because we are checking for the we are checking for the previous element in the prefix sum and adding it up to get the current element. In case if left is 0, which is we are starting from the initial index, then prefix of I minus 1 would be prefix of 0 minus 1, which is prefix of minus 1, which leads to index out of bound error. That's why we have to take care of that condition. So if left is 0, then we would return prefix of right. Otherwise we would return the actual formula, which is prefix of right minus prefix of left minus 1. Okay, let's run the code. It is accepted. Let's submit it. Okay, it is accepted. Let's dry run for a simple example. Maybe let's consider this range. So for this range, the input is this, and the prefix would be, initially the prefix, one second, this is nums, which is the input array, and now prefix would be, initially the prefix of 0 is equals to nums of 0, so prefix would be -2, then the previous element plus the current, the previous element in this prefix plus the current element, which is -2 plus 0, -2, -2 plus 3, 1, 1 minus 5, -4, then -4 plus 2, -2, -2 minus 1, -3. So this is the prefix. Now if you're calculating, let's say for example 2, 5, then the sum range would be prefix of 5. Okay, let's say we are calculating from range 2, 5, where left is 2 and right is 5. So the formula is prefix of right minus left minus 1. So prefix of 5 minus prefix of 2 minus 1, which is prefix of 1. So prefix of 5 minus prefix of 1, 0, 1. This is at index 1. Prefix of 5 minus prefix of 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -3 minus -2, which is -3 minus -2, which is -3 plus 2, which is -1. So the answer here is -1. So we are simply calculating the prefix using a simple formula. So for pre-processing of the prefix sum, here it would take O of n, and for each query we will take only O of 1 because we are just using a simple formula. But the space here would be O of n because we are using an extra space in the form of prefix array. So since there are multiple range sum queries, the brute force is inefficient, and the prefix sum allows us to pre-process once and answer every query in O of 1 time. So this problem is a foundation for many range based problems. So yeah, that is it for today's problem, and I will see you in the next one.